Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today, I'm going to be reacting to some Slaanesh TikToks. I do a lore series every Monday. Every Tuesday is the short version of that. And that's more of a narrative experience, while Monday's video is more of a lore study and a Bible study all in one. And let's just say it ain't your typical churchianity stuff, okay? There's a lot we get into of the supernatural and all that. But anyways, I also do these react videos with the biblical veneer to it. So, let's get started. And I want to start out with Isaiah 34, because this goes right into Slaanesh, or the hands of Slaanesh. Anyways, so Isaiah 34, verse 14. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. Yes, satyr. And the screech owl shall also rest there, and find herself a place of rest. This word for screech owl is Lilith. Literally, the word Lilith. Female night specter or whatever. And you get into Inanna, she looks like a human owl, let's just say, right? And a lot of this stuff comes from Genesis 6, and where the angels came down, mated with women. We're going to see that here, that a lot of the women became sirens, but we'll get into that. But anyways, let's get this started here.
Today we're talking about the chaos god Slaanesh. Slaanesh, also known as the Prince of Desire or She Who Thirsts, is the god of hedonism, obsession, and desire. Followers of Slaanesh typically desire perfection or to experience sensations as intensely as possible, whether that's through clothing or artwork or food. The Prince of Desire is...
And what's interesting, like with Inanna, Isis, and all them, this is where kind of the Easter thing comes in, and the eggs. Because you'll see here, right here, in verse 15, there shall the great owl make her nest, lay, hatch, and gather under her shadow. So she's laying eggs, and this is like a breeding ground, right? And there shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. So, very interesting.
Fed by emotions like lust and ambition, and as you might expect, they'll appear in whatever form allows them to manipulate whoever they're after the most. Slaanesh's rival is Nurgle.
That's going to come into play in the next verse I bring up,
because they represent opposing emotions and ideals. For instance, Nurgle would typically bless one of his followers with the inability to feel pain from whatever ailment he's inflicted upon them, which is in direct opposition to the way that followers of Slaanesh would want...
Okay, actually, let me bring that up. I'm sorry, guys. Right here. So, Enoch chapter 19, and Uriel said to me, here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons. So, angels can transform, right? We know Satan can transform himself into an angel of light. So can his ministers also, right? His hosts. But anyways,
to push that sensation to its absolute limit. Slaanesh is also the youngest of the Chaos Gods, and her birth had a huge effect on both the warp and real space. As you might remember from my video on Nurgle, the Eldari are a race of aliens that are based off of elves, and they're incredibly powerful psychers.
You could check out my Eldari video. We talk about how the Shadim in Jewish folklore have a connection with the elves and stuff like that, right? And it's very interesting. It does connect to Norse mythology and all that junk. But anyways.
Experience their emotions very intensely, which means that they give off a lot of psychic energy into the warp. The Eldari are very long-lived and became bored with regular life, so they began pushing their sensations as far as they could. They performed all kinds of hedonistic and sadistic acts throughout their empire that eventually caused such a concentration of psychic energy that, well, a giant warp rift opened. This is the Eye of Terror. It is a giant warp rift 20,000 light years across, and it opened when Slaanesh was born. It consumed every single one of the worlds in the Eldari Empire at the time, also known as the Crone Worlds.
And of course, in the Bible, it has what are called gates. Now, these are portals, right? And the book of Enoch even calls them portals, right? You know, they're veils. Weakness of the veils and stuff like that is kind of what they're described as. And this is why I believe and with Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. The reason why they were building something high up so they can get to that weakness in the veil, the portal into heaven. Because I think it's in Jubilees where it talks about how a third part of them wanted to go and take out the angels. A third part wanted to storm the throne room and stuff like that. But who knows if that's true or not. But anyways, I digress.
And almost every single Eldari. In fact, the term "she who thirsts" is used by the Eldari specifically because of the fact that Slaanesh really hungers for Eldari souls specifically. Some Eldari were scared that something like this might happen if their empire continued on its way, and they were able to survive by creating massive arcs. And from that point on, every Eldari had to take some kind of measure to make sure that their soul was contained when they died, or Slaanesh would immediately consume it when it entered the warp.
Now we're going to be reacting to Deadlifts for the Dark Gods, Noise Marines Explained. Now, this one's going to be interesting. We're still in 1st Enoch chapter 19, right here. Verse 2. And the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. What's interesting, Lilith, Inanna, and all that can be considered sirens. Now, they're connected with mermaids, but they're also connected to bird-like women as well, which is very interesting. But you see, they became sirens. And Jude actually gives a nod to the book of Enoch. And it talks about, the prophecies of Enoch, and then it pulls straight from Enoch 1. So that's a good endorsement. Now, it is fragmented, so you can't trust everything, so always bring it to Scripture, but it is interesting. Okay. Now let's get this started here.
Noise Marines are the blessed space marines who have given their souls to Slaanesh. They are twisted, evil, debauched things, caring little for anything but the most extreme pleasures and stimulants. They wield mighty sonic weapons that play the music of the apocalypse. Noise Marines are the cacophonic choir of she who thirsts and are beyond terrifying foes to face. Many of them have modified themselves beyond recognition, replacing mouths with speakers, lining the insides of their armor with spikes to cause pain wherever they move, and much, much more. So too does.
And what's interesting is, of course, maybe a lot of you know, music comes from the word muse. And muse were these inspirational spirits, right? They would get inspiration from spirits. But we know on the Bible it tells us to test all the spirits to see if they come from God, right? And there are some, good angels who you can inspire of or whatever that will give stuff straight from God, right? And give you good music, but there's also bad ones as well. But anyways.
Slaanesh blessed them with heightened senses to better enjoy the pleasures and pains around them. Yet they are never satisfied and must always strive for greater sensations. They are lightning fast and far more sadistic than any sane person could imagine. To the warriors of the Dark Prince, fighting with the Noise Marines is akin to a rock concert of epic proportions. But to the non-believers, it is agonizing, horrifying sound that literally kills to hear. Their rapturous music goes to unbelievable heights, capable of shattering bones.
That would be terrible. Having to see a tall Noise Marine, but then it shoots sonic weapons at you, music weapons. But anyways, let's finish this up.
And ceramite armor alike. These beings always strive to be louder, faster, and more extreme in any way possible.
Now we're going to be reacting to Addicts TV, the Demonettes, the best soldiers of Slaanesh. All right. So we're going to head back to Isaiah 34 here. All right. So check this out. So, verse 12. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but now none shall be there, her kingdom, right? Lilith or the Screech Owls. And all her princes shall be nothing, and thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof. And it shall be a habitation of dragons and a court for owls. Basically, demons. So, very interesting. Now let's get this started. If I can get it.
Demonettes are the ubiquitous servants and warriors of Slaanesh. They possess a lithe and agile form, making them swift and deadly combatants. posing a grave threat to any adversary on the battlefield. Yet, their allegiance to the Prince of Pleasure goes far beyond mere warfare.
I wish I was good at RTS games, man, because I definitely want to try Total War, Warhammer, or Total War, Warhammer 3. Hey, my goodness. Like, I'll learn how to talk one of these days. But anyways, let's just keep this going.
They are also consummate seducers. These androgynous entities infiltrate the dreams and minds of mortals,
I do want to bring that up. Inanna and all that. She has a male aspect and a female aspect, which androgyny. And androgyny and paganism, you could become a god, basically, right? That's how you tell who's a god and who's not. So, anyways.
bring promises of ecstasy, power, and any temptation their chosen victim craves most. They embody both perfection and repulsion, tapping into primal urges and amplifying the darkest desires within their prey. Initially, demonettes manifest as stunningly beautiful beings, captivating their targets with melodious voices and exquisite forms. However, just as their victim is drawn in for an embrace or a kiss, the illusion shatters, revealing the demonette's true, grotesque, and sinister nature. In that instant of betrayal, the ensnared
I'll keep my mouth shut on that one, actually.
mortal is ruthlessly torn apart by the demonette's razor-sharp claws or serrated talons.
Now we're going to be reacting to Danny in Control. Do you worship Slaanesh? Alright. So, I do want to preface this that Lilith is not the first wife of Adam. Okay, that is Jewish folklore, or Jewish mysticism, I should say, and it is not biblical at all. Now, Lilith is in the Bible, as we just saw, Isaiah 34, as the screech owl, which literally is the Hebrew word Lilith, which then the root word of that is Lael, which means female night demon. But here's the legend. So, Lilith is a primordial she-demon and Mesopotamian night creature famous in Jewish folklore as Adam's rebellious first wife, which she was not. Across various mythologies and ancient texts, she is frequently characterized as a nocturnal terror, succubus, and a stealer of newborn children. And the reason why I say she wasn't because we know that the women who copulated with the angels became sirens. So she became this bird-like human demon, let's just say, right? So, interesting stuff. Just know Lilith is in the Bible, but she's not the first wife of Adam. Come on.
We're going to talk about the chaos god that is the literal embodiment of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Her name is Slaanesh, also known as the
There might be
Dark
cussing in
See,
this, I'm not sure.
Slaanesh is the god of pleasure and access, and is also the chaos god amongst the Eldari that represents lust, hedonism, perfection, pride, and self-indulgence. Her birth is derived from the excess hedonism and sin from the Eldar, one of the most powerful races in the galaxy with god-like.
What a lot of people don't know, you know, you have a lot of Christians still tell you you're a sinner, right? Well, what is sin? Right here, let me bring that up real quick. This is what sin is. The Bible tells you what sin is. Let me bring it up here. So, 1 John 3:4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. Those 10 commandments, right? Stealing, lying, adultery, coveting your neighbor's goods, right? And yes, keeping the Sabbath and all that. And the Sabbath is basically a God-prescribed day off of work. Is really what the Sabbath is. And it's a remembrance that God created the world in 6 days, right? On the 7th day, he rested. And that's what it's mainly for, to remember God created the world, right? And so to memorialize that, you take a day off of work. And you don't necessarily do nothing. And the problem with what the Jewish people or the Israelites back then were doing, is they had what is called the oral Torah, which Moses basically denounces that. He says, or he wrote down all that God said, but basically the wise, God gave the wise an oral Torah on how to keep the Torah, right? Basically, they were adding to the word of God. And what does God say? Don't add or subtract to it. But anyways, this is going longer than I wanted to, so let's get back into
status. Her birth killed billions of the Eldar and created the Eye of Terror. Slaanesh is often depicted as androgynous, representing both masculine and feminine aspects, which reinforces the idea of transcending traditional boundaries and norms. Slaanesh is also
go over
the
that.
youngest of the 4 Chaos gods and thrives on the pursuit of desire, which is never fully satisfied, leading followers into a spiral of addiction and excess.
I am going to be doing a Slaanesh video next Monday. So I'll get into all of that and how Inanna is in this androgynous character. Mostly female, but she does have a male spirit to her. So, anyways.
Her followers are blessed with heightened senses to feel more pain, pleasures, and extremes. Her realm is described to be beautiful, but also horrible as well, and consists of nothing but lust and temptation. So, to be a follower of Slaanesh is to be a follower of addiction and pursuit of self-indulgence, but it never ends. To be a follower of Slaanesh can either be amazing or fucking terrible.
Alright guys, we're going to wind it down here. I just want to thank everybody. I'm not going to promote anything. I just want to thank all you guys who've subscribed and liked the videos, and especially the ones who comment almost every video. Not many people have it, so I don't take that for granted. And I want to thank all of you. And you guys are awesome. And to the Warhammer 40k community who let me do all this, I wouldn't have this channel if it wasn't for you guys. I got atheists who watch my channel. I got Buddhists, all different kinds of religions, Christians who watch my stuff. So thank you guys very much. I mean, like I said, this channel would be nothing without you guys. So thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day.